everyone. So in this video, I'm going to be going through your IP4 assignment for Psych 315. So I want to create this video to give some extra details on the assignment, provide some of that auditory information for those of you who are auditory learners, to give you some pictorial directions for those of you who are more visual learners than reading learners, and for anyone who felt that that information and that tips on your Unit 4 assignments announcement needed some additional details. This is going to break things down a little bit more, show you some pictures as we go through step by step. So speaking of steps, we are going to start with steps 1 and 2. So to start, you are going to download the provided template. So that's your very first step. Make sure you download that template. Part of the why is in step 2. You are going to be using the cover page and reference page that are included in this template. So at the 300 level for your classes, we are working toward getting you independent and proficient with APA formatting. You're going to need that for your 400 level classes and beyond. So those of you going on to master's programs and doctoral programs in the future, you will need to be able to do the APA formatting all on your own. We are introducing it to you and kind of already doing it for you, so that you just have to kind of plug and play. So you have that cover page there. That we are going to meet the cover page requirement for APA formatting. So all you're going to do is change your information into it, and I'll show you what I mean when we get to that. But make sure you keep that cover page and you go in and you edit it correctly. So in order to find the template, you are going to go to the bottom of your assignment, and where it says use this template, the words this template are actually a hyperlink. So you're going to click on that and it will download your template for you. So then you'll have that information. So this is where you're going to go to get that template that you're going to use. Now when you open your template, you're going to notice that the very first page has your cover page. This is where you're going to put in your own first name and last name, your professor's name, and your date of submission. That's all you have to do to this cover page. Once you have done that, your cover page is done and you can move on to the next steps of this assignment. So speaking of next steps, your next step, step 3, asks you to view the 3 resources that you are provided in your assignment. So these include a TED Talk and 2 websites. So you're going to be using these sources to answer the questions in your assignment. So when we go into your assignment, you will notice that your first one is here with the TED Talk, Addiction, a Disease of Our Survival System. And then you have the 2 websites here. You have 7 secret signs of workplace substance abuse and 6 signs your employees may be abusing drugs. These are the 3 resources that you are going to be using for this assignment. So once you have read those, once you're done reading those websites and watching that video, you're going to move on to step number 4. So for step number 4, and this information will go under that number 1 heading, and I'll show you that in a minute, you are going to write a paragraph of at least 100 words that discusses 2 to 3 workplace behaviors that Nick might be seeing in Joel that could be signs of Joel having an issue with drugs or alcohol. So chances are, if you're already in a role that uses some of the facets of organizational behavior that we're studying, you might already have some ideas of behaviors that you've seen employees exhibit. You have the required resources there, however, if you need some more information, if you have not encountered this yet. You do have those required resources to help you out. In those resources, what you have are under the label warning signs. You have a list of different behaviors that might be seen. The second website, under signs employers can look out for if they suspect employees of drug abuse, you again have a list. So using these 2 resources, you will actually have many items that you can discuss. Now, you don't need to discuss everything that's here. Again, it just says 2 to 3 workplace behaviors. You can choose which ones you want to write about. Another piece of this is to remember you're not just going to say, he might be tardy. Talk about that. Explain that. Give details about it. Remember to explain, well, why might he be tardy? What could be going on? give those details. And you'll notice on these web pages, there is extra information under each of these headings. There's information that you can use. Now remember, these are the signs that you might see from Joel. This is not about what you might be seeing from his supervisor, Nick. This is not about what you might be seeing his peers, how his peers might be reacting. This is not about your brain or your neurons. This is just about the behaviors you might be seeing in Joel. So once you've decided on your 2 to 3 behaviors, you are then going to go into your template, and under this number 1 section, you are going to use this space to explain 2 to 3 workplace behaviors that Nick might be seeing that could signal an issue with drugs or alcohol. It's about what Nick could be seeing Joel do or not do, as the case may be for some of these. So that's where you're going to discuss this. Now, as a side note, I mentioned this in the live chat, I know. If you decide you don't want all of this information here, all you need to do is use paragraphs for each of these. So number 1 will have its own paragraph, number 2 will have its own paragraph, and number 3 will have its own paragraph. So each one will just have its own paragraph in here. You can set it up that way as well. It's completely up to you. If you choose to leave this, obviously you'll just be entering your answer to number 1 under number 1. If you choose to delete this, you'll just be creating a paragraph, a new paragraph for each of these pieces of the prompt. So once you have written about 2 to 3 workplace behaviors Nick might be seeing from Joel, then you're going to move on to step number 5. In step number 5, you're going to be going to the second piece of your prompt. And that prompt asks you to discuss what areas of the brain would be connected with the behaviors that are seen. So this is where you're going to talk about those neurotransmitters. This is where you're going to talk about what might be happening within the brain. As opposed to just saying neurotransmitters are impacted. Well, which neurotransmitters? How are they impacted? Make sure that you're giving those details. Make sure that you're being specific with this. So when you write this, you are using primarily, you're going to be using that TED Talk. In that TED Talk, you heard some information about the parts of the brain that could be impacted. So you can definitely use that as a resource for you. In addition, in the Unit 3 live chat, I gave you some examples about this, gave you some details about what parts of the brain are involved in substance abuse. You can go back and re-watch that and get that information from there as well. And then once you have that completed, you will then go under the number 2 in your template, and you will be writing about the areas of the brain that may be connected to the workplace behaviors that are being seen. Once that's completed, we can move on to step number 6. So in step number 6, you are going to be discussing how the behaviors that you discussed might impact Joel's job performance and why Nick needs to address the behavior. So as you saw in the announcement, and as I talked about in the live chat, if you're not sure of how Joel's actions could impact his job performance, you can go back and rewatch that section of the Unit 3 live chat. I did mention it in there. But how could it impact job performance? What is it going to do to productivity? What is it going to do to his overall job performance? What things might be happening that would be, impactful of job performance? I don't want to sway you in a direction. And then your second piece of this is why Nick needs to address it. So why does Nick, as Joel's supervisor, need to address this? Now, I've had some students in the past say, well, I don't feel Nick needs to address this. You need to explain why. Why don't you feel Nick needs to address this? If you feel that Nick needs to keep his rapport with Joel and therefore human resources should be addressing it, you need to discuss that. You need to discuss, and that would still be Nick addressing it in some way. He would just be having HR directly address it with Joel, but he would still be addressing it. So make sure that you are clear on that as well, giving both pieces of that. How it would impact Joel's job performance and why Nick needs to address it. And this will go under section 3 of your assignment. Relate how these behaviors might impair Joel's performance at work and why Nick needs to address it. So you'll be writing that paragraph here. Now you've completed all 3 of those sections of your prompt. but there's still one more step that I wanted to make sure that I discussed. So now that you've got all 3 paragraphs of the assignment, you're going to be at the bottom of your paper and you will notice there are 3 references listed. Do not delete those references. These are the references in proper APA formatting for the 3 sources you were required to review and use for this assignment. So if you follow directions and you use those, you must have them on your reference page. You need to provide a citation, a credit to those sources. Now, you don't need to use any outside sources. If you do choose to, you will need to just add those into your reference list where they belong. Make sure that they're in proper format and in proper order and go ahead and add those. Again, it is not required that you use any outside resources. You can get everything you need from the 3 resources we provided you. You have to give them credit, however, so do not delete your reference page. This is another reason why we have you downloading the template, because not only do you have that cover page already completed for you, but you have that reference page already done. So please make sure that you do not delete that reference page. I've also added here one final tip for your assignment. Make sure you check your similarity report as soon as it's completed. If you see an issue, go in and correct it. You don't want to end up having to redo your assignment or having there be some sort of a problem for not quoting and citing things properly. You do have the information in that plagiarism, quotation, paraphrasing announcement. Make sure that you're using that information if you take anything directly from outside sources. So to show you what that reference page looks like, here's your reference page. All you need to do with it is not delete it. So just leave that there and submit it, and you'll get credit for having your APA formatting completed. So remember, this assignment is due by 11:59 p.m. Central Time on Sunday of week 4. I hope that this has been helpful for you and that it's gone through and given you some good details about your IP4 assignment that is due this week. Thanks for watching.